A traveler zips up their suitcase with confidence. They've packed like a pro, convinced nothing can go wrong. Everyone knows the obvious bans. No giant bottles of shampoo, no fireworks, no knives. Simple. But 2025 is different. The real trap isn't the explosives or liquids anymore. It's the harmless, everyday items you'd never expect. And here's the problem. One wrong item, one small mistake, and your carry-on could be pulled aside, rejected, or even charged with new hidden fees you didn't see coming. Stick with me, because in the next few minutes, you'll know exactly what those traps are, from bizarre bans that don't make sense, to real stories of flights stopped cold, to the policies quietly shifting under the radar. If you've ever had to throw something away at airport security, you already know that sinking feeling in your stomach. Don't let it happen again. Hit subscribe now so the next time rules change overnight, you'll be the first to know. Airlines shrinking your carry-on, the hidden fees game. You measure your bag, it fits the limits, you've packed smart, and you're convinced you've outplayed the airlines. But in 2025, that confidence is where the fees begin. Across Europe, budget carriers have tightened the rules. EasyJet now gives you just one small underseat bag free, 45 by 36 by 20 centimeters, wheels included. Anything larger? You pay extra or book a higher fare. Ryanair recently adjusted its free personal bag allowance, changing the size to 40 by 30 by 20. It looks generous on paper, but the larger cabin bag you used to wheel on, that's now a paid add-on. And in North America, Air Canada has taken the same path. Since January 3, 2025, its basic fare no longer includes a standard carry-on bag. You're allowed one personal item free, a purse, small backpack, or laptop case. But that roller suitcase? It has to be checked, starting at about $35 for the first bag and higher for the second. Even your seat isn't included anymore. As of January 21, 2025, basic fare passengers no longer get free seat selection. Unless you pay, the airline assigns your seat at check-in, whether it separates you from family or puts you in the last row. This isn't random. It's a strategy. By shifting the rules year after year, airlines are training passengers to expect less for the same fare. And unless you study the fine print before you book, you won't see the trap until you're at the airport, with your wallet already open. If you've ever been stung by a baggage fee you didn't see coming, you know how frustrating it feels. Don't let the airlines outsmart you again. Subscribe now and stay one step ahead of the rule changes. Smart luggage, the explosive risk. A few months ago, on January 28, 2025, passengers boarding an Air Busan flight in South Korea suddenly found themselves rushing out of an aircraft engulfed in smoke. Investigators suspect the fire began in the overhead bin, likely triggered by a portable battery pack. Official findings are still pending, but the incident highlighted something aviation regulators have been warning for years, that even everyday electronics can become a real threat at 35,000 feet. Here's why. Lithium-ion batteries, the kind that power everything from phones to travel gadgets, are measured in watt-hours. Regulators draw three clear lines. Under 100 watt-hours is generally safe to carry in your hand luggage. Between 100 and 160 watt-hours, you need the airline's approval, and usually only one or two spares are permitted. Anything over 160 watt-hours is banned from passenger flights entirely. And no matter the size, spare batteries and power banks are never allowed in checked luggage. They must always go in your carry-on. But limits don't erase risk. The Busan fire shows that even batteries within the legal threshold can fail, sometimes because of manufacturing flaws, sometimes due to damage or poor handling. That's why cabin crews are trained to handle lithium battery fires more than almost any other in-flight emergency today. Now consider the travel trend of smart luggage. These are suitcases with built-in charging banks and GPS trackers. Sounds futuristic, but there's a catch. Airlines worldwide have moved to reject bags whose batteries cannot be removed. If the battery is sealed inside, check-in agents can, and often will, turn it away. Imagine spending $300 on a smart suitcase, only to be told at the counter it won't fly. So the practical takeaway is simple. Know your battery limits, never check a power bank, and if you own smart luggage, make sure the battery slides out. It's not just about following rules, it's about reducing risks that regulators, airlines, and passengers are all learning to take seriously, one incident at a time. Liquids rule confusion. Why the 311 won't die. For nearly 20 years, air travelers have been told the same thing. 100 milliliters, clear bag, nothing more.
But in 2024, headlines promised change. Several UK airports began rolling out new CT scanners designed to let passengers carry liquids up to 2 liters without pulling anything out of their bags. For a moment, it looked like the dreaded 311 rule was finally history, but reality was much messier. By mid-2024, many of those airports had to reimpose the old 100 milliliter rule, not because of security fears, but because the machines weren't ready to handle peak passenger loads. At some checkpoints, the machines misflagged ordinary items, forcing delays. The fix? A quiet return to the old restriction in multiple lanes. The European Union has been promising the same scanners for years, but technical hiccups and regulatory holdups mean that in 2025, the 100 milliliter rule is still enforced at most EU airports. Some airports have mixed systems, one lane with the new scanners, another running the old rules, leaving passengers completely confused. And here's why the rule exists in the first place: the 2006 Heathrow liquid bomb plot. A group planned to disguise liquid explosives as soft drinks and mix them on board. That single case cemented the 100 milliliter limit as global aviation policy, and nearly 2 decades later, it remains stubbornly in place. The trap for travelers is simple. Rules can flip depending on which airport, which terminal, even which lane you pass through. You might read that liquids are now unlimited, but unless you've checked your exact departure airport, you're gambling with your carry-on. The smartest move is always pack as if the 100 milliliter rule is still alive. Keep TSA-approved travel bottles ready and never rely on airport rumors or viral clips promising you can skip the baggie. Every week, travelers watch $50 bottles of skincare or perfume tossed into a bin because they trusted the wrong update. Don't let that be you. Subscribe now so you'll always know the rules before you pack.
The bizarrely banned items. And then there are the items that seem harmless, but can stop you cold at the checkpoint. Take powders. Baking flour, protein powder, baby formula, even powdered spices. If the container is larger than 12 ounces or 350 milliliters, it's almost guaranteed to be pulled aside. TSA officers will run additional screening, and if the substance can't be identified, it may not make it into the cabin at all. So if you're traveling with powders, put them in smaller containers or check them. Then there's the old-school mercury thermometer. Because mercury is considered hazardous, you cannot bring one in your carry-on. The only exception is if it's packed in a protective case and checked in your luggage. Digital thermometers, on the other hand, are usually fine if they meet battery rules. And what about everyday items like tent poles, stakes, or sports gear? TSA categorizes them as potential weapons. A baseball bat, a trekking pole, even a sturdy selfie stick can get you stopped, because anything long, hard, and blunt is seen as a possible threat. Even certain tools or appliances fall into this gray zone. A cordless drill, for example, almost never makes it past security. Same for anything with sharp parts, exposed blades, or heavy power packs. The rule of thumb is simple. If it could double as a weapon, expect it to get flagged. The strangest part? None of these rules are new. They've been in place for years, but most travelers only learn about them when their items are already sitting in a TSA bin, and by then, it's too late. What's the weirdest thing you've ever seen confiscated at airport security? Drop it in the comments. Your story might save someone else from losing their gear. And while you're here, subscribe so your next trip isn't remembered for the wrong reasons. Every airport rule feels like a hassle until you remember the reason it exists. Lithium batteries aren't just gadgets. They're the #1 cause of in-flight fire incidents. The 100 milliliter liquid rule? That's the legacy of a 2006 plot to smuggle liquid explosives through Heathrow. And even something as ordinary as a mercury thermometer is banned because one crack could spill toxic metal in the cabin. None of these rules are random. They're written in jet fuel and hard lessons. But here's the difference between the traveler who gets stuck and the one who breezes through. Knowledge. Bring a compact power bank under 100 watt-hours, small enough to be allowed everywhere, powerful enough to save your phone during a layover. Pack your shampoo and lotion in collapsible bottles, each safely under 100 milliliters, so they pass TSA without ending up in the trash. If you're worried about shrinking carry-on limits, use an expandable underseat bag. It looks regulation-sized at boarding, but flexes to handle the extras once you're inside. It's a risk, but a calculated one. Because air travel isn't just about getting through security. It's a game of psychology.
The traveler who understands these hidden rules avoids the arguments, the fees, and the embarrassment of losing something they paid good money for. You've just seen it all. The battery rules that can ground your gadgets, smart luggage that gets stopped at check-in, liquid limits that refuse to disappear, shrinking carry-on sizes that cost more every year, and the bizarre everyday items that somehow end up on the banned list. Here's the truth. Airline rules are changing faster than passengers can keep up. What passes security this month could be the very thing that gets your bag rejected on your next trip. Airlines don't announce these traps until it's too late, but here you'll always hear it first. Subscribe now so you never walk into the airport unprepared again. Travel smart, travel safe, and never let your bag be the one that gets rejected at the gate.